We talking about sports, get ball.
What it do, baby? Yeah.
What's up, you number one podcast listeners? We are back with another edition of the number one podcast in your headphones, Creme Brulee. This episode, I'm joined by my cousin, Roshan Bhatt, and I'm excited to have you on, man. We had a special request to talk NBA playoffs with the two of us, so we have to give the people what they want.
Yes, sir. You already know. Of course, man. Thanks for having me. And
yeah, thank you for joining me on this edition, man. And before we get started, let's hear from our sponsor for this episode. This episode of the Creme Brulee podcast is brought to you by Urban Exterior Co. For all your roofing, siding, and gutter needs, please visit urbanexteriorco.com. That's urbanexteriorco.com. You love to see it. All right, man. Let's go ahead and get started with Yeah Fam or Not. And I'm just warning you in advance, you number one podcast listeners, the theme of this episode is LeBron needs help. So without further ado, let's get shit going. Before we get to that, we have some important things to discuss, but just be prepared for an NBA playoffs heavy because there's a lot to discuss here. Okay, first up, I thought it was responsible of us to cover this Naomi Osaka withdrawing from the French Open, citing mental health concerns because for you number one podcast listeners, this is something obviously you all know that's near and dear to my heart, and I know it is for you, Roche, so I figured it was you were the perfect person to talk about this a little bit, but just wanted to give a little background first. So Naomi Osaka, one of the current tennis goats, she entered the tournament stating she wouldn't be meeting with any press, citing mental health, and she was going to take the fine money and donate it to worthy causes. She said that going in. Following a first-round victory, she was fined $15,000. So tennis players are required to attend news conferences if requested to do so. Grand Slam rules allow for fines up to $20,000 if they don't show up, so they damn near got close to that with fining her. A day later, Osaka pulled out of the tournament entirely. She said on social media that she experiences, quote, huge waves of anxiety, end quote, before meeting with the media and revealing she has suffered long bouts of depression. She said she'd be taking some time away from the court, but when the time was right, she really wanted to work with the tour to discuss ways to make things better for the players, press, and fans. Worth noting, the leaders of the 4 Grand Slam tennis tournaments promised to address players' concerns about mental health following her withdrawal from the French Open. So obviously kudos to them. Mental health is nothing to scoff at, and I'm glad it's being a priority. And huge shout out to Naomi Osaka for putting her mental health first and being brave enough to talk about it and address it. With her status as being one of the best tennis players, for someone like her to bring something like that up is very important for the game, and she's rightfully seen so much support from athletes everywhere. But I wanted to introduce all this. We wanted to get to a sports topic, so feel free to address the mental health side of this. I think it's very important that we treat that with the dignity it deserves. But given all that, I wanted you to give me a yeah, fam or not. Should athletes be required to talk to the press after games, matches, etc.? Go ahead, man.
So of course, I'm a yeah, fam to, her kind of putting this all on the out there, on the open, and, using her platform to kind of make sure that people are aware that, as much as athletes get paid and, people's go-to excuse to not hear any shit from athletes is usually you get paid millions of dollars to play a game. And while that's true, these guys are in an important position where a lot of Americans, a lot of global people, people all over the world watch, these sports. It's good to have a representative to be like, hey, just because we're rich and we play a game doesn't mean we don't go through the same things that you on the couch go through too. And it's cool to see that kind of paradox. It's like, yeah, it's not all, sunshine and rainbows here. We're humans too, just like, you guys. And just because you watch us doesn't mean we don't go through the same pressures and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, obviously I'm a yeah fam to her speaking out for that. As far as athletes being required to speak to the press, I'm definitely a nah fam on that. I kind of think that, and this is coming from someone with a journalism background who's done interviews, in college, for, sports or whatever it might have been. And I think like typically the gauntlet of questions that you ask an athlete or ask anyone after an event is so fucking formulaic and boring. Like, you don't really need to be like, hey, you lost today. What could you do better next time? You're just going to get the same fucking regurgitated answer because these guys are tired of answering the same questions ad nauseum anyway. I think with the amount of media that's available, with the amount of athletes on social media, press is not really necessary. They can take tidbits on, they can take quotes from people's Twitter accounts, from people's Instagram lives, or whatever the fuck they do in their free time, and kind of create stories around that. There's nothing wrong with that. More and more you're seeing, athletes, kind of use very, not so much professional language and, just say things, and then they get quoted on ESPN.com. So we're kind of already opening the book on that. I think I hate to use KD as an example for good, but, one of the things I like about KD is he always, says what he wants without a filter. And, he recently said stuff in the media. We'll get to that later. But he also has like a podcast where he kind of opens up and says things that you wouldn't hear him say in a press conference. So I think taking tidbits of that and making stories, which is something they do all the time anyway, is a very viable option here. So I really don't think they should be required to talk to the press. And I think it's like way overrated and overblown. And unless you're asking specifics of game plan, which half the time they don't share anyway, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, so definitely echo everything about mental health. It is, from a fan's perspective, it is cool to be able to relate to a professional athlete, because you think about all the things on the surface for an athlete, like, oh, they're getting paid millions of dollars. They're playing a game that they love, that they've played since they were a kid. What could possibly be wrong? Well, it's beyond all that. It's beyond the surface thing. So for someone like Naomi Osaka to speak out on it, and I know a lot of other professional athletes have done the same, is a big deal. It's a big deal to a lot of people, and especially people that look up to them and watch them and all that. It proves that it goes beyond just the surface of what they do for a living. And that's a lesson that we can all take in life. It's like everyone could seem like they're good, but deep down we don't know what they're going through. So kudos to her for that. That being said, I do think there needs to be some kind of addressing of mental health issues. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't have an answer. Maybe it's that for every week or month worth of press, they get like a free pass to turn down press for that day. If they're just not feeling it that day, they get a pass to be able to turn it down. But I think it is part of everything that's collectively bargained in team sports, all that stuff. They know what they're signing up for when they become a professional athlete. I get all that. Like, a lot of it's canned answers, all that. But we do get some classic moments from press, and it does serve to inform a lot of things that necessarily a Twitter feed couldn't do, or someone's private social media team could do. And I think what happens is a lot of times press that is asking questions after a tournament gets lumped with talking heads on sports channels that say things just for reaction.
Yeah, 100%.
Those are not equal. I think the people that are doing press conferences, they're largely journalists. They're just reporting on what they're asked, all that stuff. And that's the only source that they can get. A lot of times, they have to take what they can get from a Twitter feed, or someone goes on a rant or something. They have to report on it because, hey, they're just doing their job. But I think there still is a responsibility for athletes to talk to the press. But mental health should not be breezed over, and I don't think any sport is doing that, and that took a lot of people speaking up about it. So I'm glad that they have done that. There needs to be some kind of compromise to be made, and I think maybe that is just a thing about, hey, I'm not ready to do press today. Is it okay if I take a rain check on it? Or they just get a free pass where they don't have to that night. And maybe that's something they agree on, collectively bargain for by their players associations. I don't know how tennis works, admittedly, since they're individual athletes, but I think there needs to be an in-between. I still am a fan that athletes should be required to talk to press after games, but maybe it's not after every game. Maybe it's not. Maybe we give them a little grace when they suffer a tough loss. Something like that. I think there needs to be something that's considered from a mental health standpoint beyond just, hey, you're an athlete, you have to do this press.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just not their day, and maybe it could do more harm than good if they go out and have to face the press, because you're not going to get a good clip anyway.
Especially the funny thing is, it's like things like, if you remember back to like when, like Marshawn Lynch was giving those like one word answers or one sentence answers where he constantly repeats the same answers. Like, it is funny. Don't get me wrong. And it's funny because of who Marshawn is, but that really stems from a deeper issue from him. And like, once you kind of get back away from it and, step back and look at it objectively, you're like, shit, man, maybe he just really doesn't like fucking talking to the press. And, and then the press are in a position where they seem to badger him because they want answers like that, and because that gets them clicks. And it's kind of like a really vicious cycle with no real answer. And it's hard to figure out, but I can pretty much guarantee that like almost all these collective bargaining agreements that are currently active, they're at least 3-4 years old in almost every sport. So I definitely see all of them kind of changing. And a lot of different things happening, like just next go around, like especially even like, baseball with, time manipulated or whatever it is. And then this and, football, I think a lot of them are going to have new rules and new kind of adaptations, and it's going to make a lot of people pissed off. The purists are going to stick their heads out from under the ground. So,
of course, you can't wait to hear from the old heads talking about stupid shit like that. All right. So I promised that we'd be talking NBA. So obviously it's dominating headlines, especially in our lives here. The NBA play-in tournament. You and I talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to save it. I know I kind of discussed on the last episode, but given that the play-in tournament concluded, I wanted to get your take on, given the results, how that kind of changed things or didn't change things for you. So over in the East, despite the play-in tournament featuring the 7, 8, 9, and 10, the 7 and 8 seeds ended up exactly where they were originally slotted. They made it into the playoffs in the East, just like it would have been if they didn't do the play-in tournament. In the West, however, the Lakers were the 7th seed. They did make their 7th slot by barely beating the Warriors on a crazy clutch 3 by LeBron, step back with one of his eyes screwed up, whatever. But then the original 8 seed Warriors got eliminated in the following game in favor of the Memphis Grizzlies, who then took their spot as the 8 seed and to play Utah. So I wanted to get fam or nah, are you fan of this method that started last year in the bubble, and especially given these results?
Prior to this year, prior to the games being played, I was a nah fan. After the games were played, I was probably a yeah fan, just because we got almost like, it felt like a, like March Madness style basketball. Like, I know for the 7 seeds, it wasn't an elimination, but like, just like having like LeBron having to play twice to be in the playoffs is kind of a new thing. And I was also pretty salty about that. I'm like, man, it's fucked up, because obviously I'm a LeBron stan. But, the games were great. That Warriors-Lakers game was pretty awesome. The Warriors-Grizzlies game was also great.
Amazing. Yeah.
One of the ones in the East was great. One of them was a blowout. So I don't watch the East anymore. That LeBron's not in there. I don't really give a shit. I guess I'm a yeah fan to it, just because it provided some extra competitive basketball, and it also allowed like teams not to take the last few weeks of the season off, save for, the Clippers benching their guys to get a 4 seed, and save for Brooklyn benching their guys to get a 2 seed or whatever it was. I'm a yeah fan.
So Did the NBA play themselves, though, by not having the Warriors in the playoffs?
I would probably say yeah. I just think like Steph had such a great season, but
Yeah.
you got to win those games, man. And like it was kind of hard to watch the Warriors get beaten twice, and I think that LeBron's shot was a lot more demoralizing than they would admit. But
Yeah.
it would have been much better to see the Warriors play the Jazz and potentially upset them over the Grizzlies, because I mean everyone knows the Grizzlies aren't going to win that series, and they never were. And so when they won the first game, everyone pretty much knew it was a fluke. But if Warriors won the first game, I think it would have been a little different.
I agree 100%. I'm a yeah fan to this play-in tournament. I love the excitement it created. I think the one thing the NBA ought to change is like I think the stats in those play-in games don't count towards playoff stats. It's like I know it's a minor thing, but I don't know what the NBA was thinking with that. This should just be counted as playoffs, like an opening round, almost like the first 4 games are in the NCAA tournament. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the Warriors, and you played yourself, so I don't want to give that part away. But I do think it would have been more exciting if the Warriors were in it, but that's why you have this play-in tournament. They had 2 chances to get in, and they didn't capitalize on either. And you're right. I think they did get demoralized. I think they put everything into that game against the Lakers and probably felt really good about their game plan.
Yeah.
And they kind of just deflated down the stretch against the Grizzlies. John Morant took over. So, but all right. So I wanted to wrap up Yeah Fam or Nah with discussing the NBA playoffs so far. So a couple storylines to consider. The only sweep of the opening round was the Milwaukee Bucks over the Miami Heat, a revenge of the bubble last year where the 5-seed Heat upset the Bucks. Did not see a sweep come in there. I don't think most people did. If you would have picked out one sweep in the opening round, I don't think it would have been that series. It appears that the top seeds are starting to handle their business. The Jazz, as we mentioned before, went down. Let the Grizzlies take game 1, but they're in control of that series. The Brooklyn Villains wrapped up their series against the Celtics. The only game the Celtics got was behind a 50-point amazing game by Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
More on the Celtics, too, coming up. And then I feel like injuries have been the name of the game. Joel Embiid, Chris Paul hurt his shoulder. Anthony, we're going to start calling him Tony Davis until he earns his full name.
The petty is real. Might charge my ex for a feature.
Tony Davis got hurt once again. And we had a spicy series between the Knicks and Hawks full of trash talk. And everybody learned that Trae Young is quite the shit talker through that series. But give me what you're feeling. You a yeah fam or not to this NBA playoffs so far, and what sticks out to you?
I think I'm a super yeah fan this year. I know most of the series are pretty one-sided. What I was talking to, I forgot who else. I think I was actually talking to my brother about it. I was like, most of the superstars that we're used to showing up in the playoffs, save for Dame last night, haven't really shown up. It's really been about like kind of the younger generation, like the new school athletes, and like
fucking Cameron Payne not being able to miss it.
Yeah, like just even like Ja Morant and Booker and like all these new guys that Trae Young, even like everyone on the Knicks. We're not used to seeing these guys in the playoffs, so it's cool to see them be in the playoffs and ball out, because at some point we're gonna have to face the reality that LeBron's not gonna be in the league anymore, and it's nice to see that like there's stars on the horizon, that the league is in pretty decent hands. And there's been a lot of phases where if LeBron left for 5 years, the league would not have been in good hands. Like, yeah, especially if like the Warriors were the Warriors, the Snakes of Oakland, and LeBron wasn't in the league, like those 3-4 years would have been fucking bullshit. Like no one would have enjoyed those years. And so I like that aspect about it. I guess on the points that you made, Bucks sweeping Heat had to probably feel pretty good for the Bucks. The Heat kind of showed that they were kind of a bubble fluke. And they have pretty much the exact same team. I'm not sure how they didn't win a single fucking game, but that was pretty embarrassing. Nobody cares about the Nets series. Who gives a shit? The Celtics weren't even a full capacity team. They didn't have Kemba. They didn't have Jaylen Brown. Doesn't matter. I think that series would have been a lot different with them. I think it would have gone probably 6, even 7, because those guys are pretty solid. The injuries really suck, and I think that is still – I think we talked about it the last time I was on. Just having all these injuries in the NBA just like really kind of like dampen the mood and the product overall. Cause it's like, people watch for the stars and, seeing Anthony Davis miss a game 5 in the playoffs really sucks cause they got their ass beat and that sucked. Chris Paul leaving game 2 or whatever, I think it was game 1 actually. That sucks too. Cause it's like, you want these teams to be at full strength cause you don't want either team to have an excuse the only reason the Suns won is because Anthony Davis was out. That sucks. Whatever. And I kind of love Trae Young, but I also kind of hate Trae Young. I haven't decided yet because he hasn't really done anything to deserve all this shit talking platforms that he's getting. But I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. Like, it's really hilarious and funny. Like him like throwing up the A and being like, "We'll see you in the A." That shit was fucking cool, man. I love that. But I'm like, dude, this is like the first time you've ever been in the playoffs, man. Like, fucking relax. And I really liked Draymond's tweet about Trae Young. I think it was like the world is finally seeing what a shit talker he is or something. And I was like, that's true, man. Like, I had no idea.
And it takes one to know one, too.
Yeah, and of all cosigns of shit talking, Draymond is the guy that you want to cosign your shit talk. So that was pretty funny.
100%. Yeah, I echo all that stuff. I think probably the headline for me is the injuries because you're right. Nobody wants to see these teams not be at full strength. Like Joel Embiid missing time against the Wizards. Wizards stole a game. Nobody wants to see these MVP candidates go down. I mean, you're even looking at one of the most exciting series is the Nuggets Blazers, and we're sitting here talking about the Nuggets. They haven't had Jamal Murray, so they're not even at full strength. I know they're holding their own, and that series is amazing because of Dame, but you want to see the best players on the court, and it just seems like this shortened off season has done more harm than good. I don't know if we can blame it on that or these are just freak incidents or what, but we're looking at the Miami Heat coming off. The Heat and the Lakers had the shortest offseason. The Heat got swept out of the playoffs with the same roster. The Lakers have been banged up all year and snuck in as a 7 seed after dominating early in the season. So those two alone don't help that narrative at all that the shortened offseason didn't have an impact. I mean, you're looking at it right now.
Yeah, and I mean, the Nuggets had like the third and Jamal Murray. Yeah. Jamal Murray got hurt. Exactly. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and the Warriors looked, Steph Curry looked great all season. He had a lot of rest. I know he was banged up a little this year, but he balled out this year. MVP candidate on a team that technically, according to the NBA, didn't make the playoffs. So here we go. But I wanted to take this time as a early you played yourself and a nice precursor to what we're about to get spicy on. I just want an early you played yourself to the basketball gods and LeBron's teammates. Why does this man always have to be tested like this? Like we think about his history. 2015, Kyrie and Kevin Love get hurt in the playoffs. They would have beat those sorry-ass Snakes of Oakland. And if his second best player in that series wasn't Matthew Dellavedova or like Timofey Mozgov.
Mozgov.
He does come back in 2016. Greatest moment ever. Then 2017, 2018, the Snakes of Oakland become extra slithery, and those seasons had to be redacted due to bullshit behavior. They didn't happen.
Petty alert. Petty alert.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't know they were redacted. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, they not in the history books. No rings were given out those years.
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
But we could have given them out if not for the extra slithery business, this hand that LeBron continues to be dealt. And now, this man is to constantly survive teammates sucking and or getting injured. My guy, previously known as Anthony Davis, currently known as Tony Davis, is great when he plays like the top 5 talent he is. But then he turns into aforementioned Tony when he gets hurt every other game, it seems like, and lets DeAndre Ayton outplay him when he is healthy. Then the Lakers assemble this roster full of shooters, you think, right? They can't knock down wide open threes. Wesley Matthews missing wide open threes. Ben McLemore signed to hit threes, not making them. Nobody is hitting threes that they signed. They had Danny Green last year, didn't hit fucking anything. They're literally on the team to hit these shots. I haven't seen Kyle, a.k.a. Carl Kuzma, make a fucking basket. I don't think I've literally seen him make a basket since I've watched them in these playoffs. He's like, I've seen him make free throws, but I don't think I've seen the ball go in the hoop for him. And then the Lakers doing weird shit like not playing Montrezl Harrell. I don't know what Marc Gasol's doing, but not much. They assembled these previously talented players. All they're fucking on the team for is to knock down wide open shots, and they won't do their job. It's like when you're depending on Alex Caruso to be the most consistent person. Oh, wait, I didn't even mention Dennis Pay Me $100 million Schroeder. My God, has his talent disappeared? The Monstars must have came and taken it away from him. This dude hasn't shown up since signing with the Lakers. This dude had the audacity to turn down an $80 million contract a little while ago. And here he is dropping 0 points in a crucial Game 5 when Anthony Davis was out. And you want to be known as like the third in a big three? Give me a fucking break, man. Help him. Help our guy LeBron. Can you please help him for the love of all things basketball holy? Help the damn guy out. LNH. Say it with me, Rosh. LNH. What does that stand for?
LNH.
LNH. What does it stand for? Tell the people.
LeBron needs help, baby. Hashtag LeBron needs help.
Get this man some help. LNH, baby. We will start the movement. Okay, on that note, I think that's a perfect intro into You Played Yourself. Let's hit it, baby.
I'm petty as hell. And I'm super petty.
Here we
Petty Le Pew.
go.
All right. First up on You Played Yourself, Danny Ainge, Boston Celtics. So, Danny Ainge resigned as president of basketball operations. Brad Stevens, formerly their head coach, was promoted to that role. And, I should clarify, Danny Ainge retired as basketball operations. I don't know that he resigned. I think they're using the term retired. Brad Stevens was then promoted into that role and will begin the search for a new head coach. So, it's a You Played Yourself when you let Kyrie Flat Earth Irving break you. This man stomped on the Celtics logo, and I think it broke this franchise. I really do. Like, usually this is tongue-in-cheek, but this man stomped on the logo, and I don't think Danny Ainge was quite too thrilled about it. And before that, let's rewind a little. Before the Brooklyn Villains closed out the series against the Celtics, Kyrie and the Villains were heading up to Boston for that part of the series, games 3 and 4. Kyrie was talking about racism he's experienced in Boston. And Danny Ainge said the following. I think this was on a radio station locally. He said, quote, "I think that we take those things kind of seriously. I never heard of any of that from any player that I've played with in my 26 years in Boston. I've never heard that before from Kyrie, and I talked to him quite a bit. So I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. We're just playing basketball. Players can say what they want." End quote. Danny. Come on, really? Like, to play the ignorance card about the fans in your area, like, I get you don't want to create any kind of animosity between the fans you represent, maybe, but to play the ignorance card is not only untrue, but there isn't even a play where I think it's remotely smart. Like, in the press, in nothing, in how people view you. Like, there's no way I can think of a way where that is in any bit smart, let alone true. To claim that he's never heard of any of that. Like, read the fucking room. You're a white guy that's played in Boston and been in the front office in Boston. So maybe you haven't heard it, but
exactly,
I would think you would trust the tons and tons of players in pretty much every sport that have said they've had a similar experience in Boston. At the very least. Like, focus on what you've experienced, but let's at least acknowledge people experiencing it that look totally different from you. So before we even got to this point where Kyrie stomped on the logo, Danny Ainge was already playing himself for major issues beyond that. And then I want to add a bonus you played yourself to the Boston Celtics. Fine if you want to promote Brad Stevens, but Brad Stevens, there's been reports that he's been burnt out of coaching, so much so that he's been rumored to go back to college for coaching, a whole bunch of that. And from what we know about the press, where there's smoke, there's fire, so I had to believe there's some truth to that. So this man is stressed coaching, so your answer is to promote him to be president of your goddamn franchise operations? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't sound like less stress, my guy. And we're giving the job to a guy that has no previous... First of all, we gave him a head coaching job. He's never coached in the NBA before. Fine. He's coached in college, done great. Now we want to promote him to front office when he has no experience in it. We can't even interview maybe some other minority front office candidates. We can't look into other people from other franchises. For one, I know that Toronto Raptors front office extraordinaire Masai Ujiri, his contract runs out in a little bit. You couldn't even test the waters on him. He has proven to be amazing commodity for Toronto, made him into an NBA champion, risked the trade to get Kawhi Leonard. You didn't even look into that, and you just went, no, we lost Danny Ainge, so let's go to the guy he hired and just continue more of the same. What are we... You played yourself, Boston, for more reasons than not. Boston doesn't need any help playing themselves, but they continue to find ways to do so.
Boston just, man, it's so, even as, I'm sure, the Boston's fan base is not all bad, but fuck, just, this whole franchise just reeks of shit constantly. Yeah. Ever since that 2008 run that they've had, all three of those guys have been so insufferable. Not to mention their front office, Danny Ainge has held on to all these assets, and he could always make that one move to get the guy over there, and he never pulled the trigger on that. He always kept assets, always kept all these things, and just stayed the course. They're we're going to do the same thing repeatedly for 5 fucking straight years and expect to win a championship with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It's not going to fucking happen. It will never happen. And even if Jaylen Brown was healthy this year, it would fucking not happen because they would have lost to the Nets in the first round. And everyone, I don't get the obsession with Brad Stevens as a coach. After watching him play LeBron 4 straight years, what it felt like, I'm the guy sucks. He never made any adjustments. They had the perfect. They took the LeBron Cavs to 7 games one year, and I just remember thinking, this is a year Boston's finally going to do it. And they let LeBron and J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson beat them out of a finals appearance. That's embarrassing. And they would have actually played the Warriors a lot better than the Cavs would have, and they blew it. And I just this team just reeks of shit. And it's just the nepotism and the veiled racism of the franchise that has followed them around for the last whatever years. And it's not just Kyrie has said something about it. Tons of players have gone through Boston and been oh yeah, they have the reputation. And it's just
they have a storied history of that.
Seriously. Yeah. And were you going to say Bill Russell?
Bill Russell, yes.
Yeah, these guys broke into the guy's house and shit on his bed. So it's just this franchise sucks for a reason, and everyone fucking hates them for a reason. And then you want to fire, or you want to, I guess, resign Danny Ainge, which they were probably forcing him to go out anyway. Let's be real, because he hasn't really done anything. And he was dealt a pretty good hand. So all the job that he did was just draft with the capital that he had. He didn't really make any spectacular moves. And now you're putting in a guy who never makes adjustments into literally one of the most prestigious positions of an NBA franchise. And they didn't even try to hire anybody else. And it's just Boston fans can literally expect more of the same. They can also expect probably the rest of their stars to just kind of take off. And it's just going to be Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And they're just going to be first on exits every year from now on.
100%. Yeah. I don't know how, as Danny Ainge, you play the ignorance card and totally not for the person that's been in Boston as a player and a front office person to not acknowledge the history, let alone just from someone like Bill Russell, is just straight ridiculous. It's asinine. There's no narrative where that makes any sense.
He's literally pretending it doesn't exist. He's just like, I pretend I do not see it. Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So, I got a couple to rattle off here. I wanted to add a you played yourself to the Miami Heat and especially Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler before the playoffs said, quote, "I'm stupidly locked in," end quote. The defending Eastern Conference champions, led by the aforementioned stupidly locked in Jimmy Butler, got swept by the Milwaukee Bucks. Butler averaged a whopping 14.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 7 assists. And I can tell you, the game 4 where they got officially swept, he had a triple-double that probably brought up those rebound and assist numbers. He had one of those Draymond, the Wout Green triple-doubles where it's like it was like 12, 10, and 10. Like, still impressive, but like, I'm pretty sure like our guy from Ohio State, Evan Turner's gotten one of those in the NBA. Also, his best plus-minus out of any of the 4 games was a -8. That was his best game. I think that was game 1.
Yikes.
He was in double digits of the minus category. So this is a guy that was like a killer in the bubble last year and was, again, stupidly locked in. Wow, maybe you should stupidly not lock in next time. Can I get a Cancun on 3?
I mean, that's probably what it was. He's probably like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not going to the finals. Yeah. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go hit the beach.
I can't expect Pat Riley to just sit there with the existing team. Like, it was worth giving it another shot because they literally made the finals last year, but I would assume that there's some real changes coming. Pat Riley does not just...
This is a good place to even, bring up the fact that they didn't want to get rid of Tyler Herro for James Harden.
Yeah, exactly.
That's stupidly locked in right there, too.
Yeah. I saw something like that with, like, the reported different trades for Kyle Lowry, like, that the Lakers were trying to get him. It was like, here are the people that were, quote, like, untradeable. It was like, they showed the stats of everybody's game 5s, like Dennis Schroeder, Talen Horton-Tucker, and one other guy. Was like, here are the guys they didn't want to trade for Kyle Lowry. So you played yourself.
Super.
I wanted to add, because we're petty like that. You can sound it in advance.
Petty alert! Petty alert!
The NBA, kind of screwing the Warriors. We talked about that a little. Let me double down on the petty. The Snakes of Oakland, you played yourselves. Steph Curry, you played yourself. It ain't easy carrying a team when you have scrubs, Steph, huh? LeBron managed to make it to the finals. You couldn't even make it into the playoffs even? Yeah, not so fucking easy when you don't have a full squad of all-stars, is it now, Steph?
You played yourself.
Good thing I took away those extra rings people claim you allegedly have, Steph, in the Snakes of Oakland. Good thing I took them away.
Yep. And this really kind of like speaks to just like how good LeBron is. Like, people just like want to say that he lost in the finals and they want to talk about his finals record. He shouldn't have even been there in the first place. Like, You're going to punish a guy for getting to the finals with these ragtag squads of like J.R. Smith and Timothy Mozgov and fucking Boobie Gibson. Like, man, give me a break. Give me a fucking break.
The ones that stand out most, obviously, for everyone are like 2007, his first finals appearance. They had no business being there. 2015, the fact that he still managed with, I know they were injured, so like they probably deserve to get to the finals with their players, but making it even a series without Kevin Love and Kyrie in 15, and then 2018, he had no business being in. It was like all year long, people were talking about how that team was broken. They blew up the roster, changed things up, and they somehow made the finals that year. And
and that was the year Boston had their chance too. That was that year, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. They were a lower seed, all that stuff, and the one that's used against them, and I will say, like, we've talked about this time and time again, so we won't talk too much about it, but that first year in Miami, that finals loss against the Mavs is the only one, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to have a debate, that's the only one in the negative column for LeBron. And I think everybody knows that. So if you want to talk logically about GOATs and all that, that's the only asterisk on his resume for me.
Hey, but LeBron never got swept out of the first round. So, there's that.
Exactly.
I know some people's
That's
GOATs.
True.
Some people's GOATs have been swept out of the first round.
Couldn't be me. Okay. I figured it was worth finishing up. You played yourself, the sports-related ones, with these fucking asshole, air quote, fans throwing things at players and running on the court. What gives you the right? Like, imagine the audacity to think that you can say whatever the fuck you want just because you paid for a ticket. I hope all these people get banned and charged. They would never say this shit to a player's face. It is the ultimate you played yourself to this kind of behavior. And I know all you number one podcast listeners that are true fans. Like, I know most of you are, all of that stuff. Don't ever catch yourself referring to people like these, quote, fans claim to talk to these players spicy like this. Not even spicy. No, we talk spicy. This is beyond that. Don't even catch yourself even wanting to say the things that some of these people reportedly have said. Those type of, quote, fans aren't the same as us. Those people don't deserve to be called fans. You do. Keep it on the court. Keep it to comments like, you suck, you're a bum, all that stuff, all fine. Nothing personal. Like, I don't know why we have to have this conversation seemingly every year, why people feel like they have the right to say anything about players just because they paid for a ticket, and these players are here to entertain you so you can talk however the fuck you want. Boo all you want, root for your team all you want, keep it on the court, keep it on the field. And here's a cardinal rule for you. If you're wondering whether you should say it or not, fucking don't. How about that?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, this, it's just so embarrassing. And once again, like, what KD said was probably like my favorite thing, because I'm just glad he said it.
Who?
And it was just like, that's, King Snake, my bad.
What it do, baby?
So his quote was, I know that being in the house for a year and a half with the pandemic got a lot of people on edge, got a lot of people stressed out, blah, blah, blah. But when you come to these games, you got to realize these men are human. We're not animals. We're not in a circus. He's like, your mother wouldn't be proud of you throwing water bottles at basketball players or spitting on players or tossing popcorns. Grow the fuck up and enjoy the game. And that quote is like pretty much all you need to know, because it's like, yeah, you're paying for a ticket. And it's just like, I think a lot of what has been happening lately is, I think people want to make it onto the news. Like, a lot of these people, I'm not going to make the observations, but you can do it yourself. Just watch all the videos. And when a guy like Cole Buckley is the guy throwing a water bottle at Kyrie fucking Irving in, the TD Garden, I mean, the storyline writes itself. It's like this fucking rich, entitled kid with a really expensive seat decides.
He had that stupid ass smirk on his face.
Yeah,
while they
he had a
took him
smirk
away
on his
too.
face. And it's just like, You know what you're doing, and you know you're trying to get on the news, and you know you have the funds and the ability to get out of whatever trouble you're going to get in. So that entitled position, it's just like, yo, these dudes need to like get their ass beat. Like, it's not even like, I don't want to advocate for violence, but this kid's clearly never gotten his ass kicked. And if he's gotten his ass kicked, he's clearly not learned. But I know for a fact that he's never gotten his ass kicked. And if that ever happens to him once, I swear to God, he will not be going to games throwing water bottles at athletes.
No way.
That is such fucking bullshit behavior. And it's like so pussy. And I loved what Bradley Beal said. He's like, I got these hands and these hands work. And I'm like, that's how it is, man. I'm like, you wouldn't do this shit. Russ said it. You wouldn't do this shit to me on the street. So, I mean, what do you get out of it? It just makes you look horrible. Also, you got to love that this extended you play yourself for them is going to come back to bite them. Because when an employer searches Cole Buckley online, the first thing that's going to pop up is he got fucking arrested at a basketball game for throwing a water bottle at a player.
100%.
How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Serves you fucking right.
Yeah, get fucked.
So to kind of wrap up, you played yourself. I started this last episode, and I think I have a lot of things that randomly bother me, so I'm going to start featuring them. And if anybody wants to submit, I'm open for them, you number one podcast listeners. You played yourself to the people who had an S at the end of things that don't need them. Like, it happens around the Midwest a lot with Kroger. It's a grocery store. It's not Kroger's. Like, it's not like there's no showing possession. It's not plural. Like, it's just called Kroger. It's the name of a store. So why are we adding S's to things that don't need them, like Myers and shit like that? Like, just call them by their name. Everybody has a example of that. Like, I feel like everybody has a store near them where everybody has a S.
I'm gonna think about this for the next time I'm on, to come up with the world related you played yourself, because I like this idea.
Yeah.
But that is very extremely old man behavior, just for the record.
For real, yeah, I know. It kind of is a result as I get older. I'm just noticing random stuff, and my wife even calls me out on it. It's like, why is that bothering you? Like, my other thing I think I brought up is, now I'm gonna save it for another episode. Never mind. This I feel like I brought it up before.
This guy's on his porch yelling, get off my porch right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's starting to become that way.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right. Let's move on to who you got and what you feeling. Last episode, Grant and I talked about our winners and losers in the NFL draft. I won't hash out all those. We discussed a lot of players, but we talked a lot about those. I know the NFL season's just under 100 days away, so that's going to be exciting to already get back to that. And it's looking like a lot of places are going to be full capacity, so shout out the vaccine for that.
It'll be exciting for some fan bases, okay? Just for the record.
What? You're not excited for Tyrod Taylor? I saw the Texans just signed Rex Burkhead. That doesn't excite you?
Dude, we have the best running back room in the NFL if it was 2016.
There we go.
Great.
Okay, and the other question Grant and I talked about is actually one I'm going to use for this week. So without further ado, let's get to our picks. First up, before we get to that pick that was discussed last episode that I want to get your take on, Julio Jones is claiming that he's not going to be back with the Falcons. All indications are that he's going to get traded. There have been reports that the Falcons have gotten at least one team willing to offer a first-round pick for him. Who you got for where Julio ends up who he ends up suiting up?
There's two teams I like him with that I've seen floating around. As much as it would pain me, the Titans would be a great spot for him. A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Who are you going to guard? These are two massive guys who have great hands.
Never forgetting Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and then they still have Derrick Henry sitting in the backfield. Like, it's like, oh, you're going to double any of those receivers? Yeah. We still have Derrick Henry to run over all your linebackers. That would be definitely worth their first-round pick. And I think that would really put them over the edge, barring the fact that Julio Jones can stay healthy, which is, rare these days.
Yeah.
The other one would probably be the Ravens. I think they went receiver in the draft. I'm not sure. But
they did. Yep.
Just, having Julio Jones and, Marquise Brown, a little speedster, I think that's a great fit for them. And Lamar definitely still needs as many weapons as he can get. And I did see DeAndre Hopkins joking about it on his Twitter account or something. That would be scary. DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones would be terrifying. Good luck to whoever played them.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, my actual two guesses are Titans and Ravens.
I like that. I'm going to go with the long shot pick, and they absolutely wouldn't deserve this, but I'm going to go with the Packers. Like, I know
they don't deserve
what better move to make. I know we keep talking about it and setting ourselves up for them not doing this for Aaron Rodgers' sake, but what better way to show that you are committed to him than I've seen this a couple places, like trade away Jordan Love and a pick to the Falcons so that they have maybe a QB they can go with, or they don't have a lot of risk behind after Matt Ryan's done, and they still get a pick from it. But I like your two. I like your two options, especially like AJ Brown has been very, very public about trying to recruit.
I love
Julio
that
to the team.
Yeah, he's posting all kinds of shit.
I also don't love how this all started. It was like Julio was wearing a Cowboys hoodie and then just blatantly said he's not going there. Like, the disrespect, dude. Like, I didn't appreciate it.
He's playing a petty alert to the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's my job, Julio. And worth noting, the Ravens did go receiver first round. They got Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. I really like that pick, but I mean, you're not going to not want a top 5 receiver in the league in Julio. So there are some teams that are reportedly out. Like, I think there was a team like the Rams that probably could have used him, and anyone can use Julio, honestly, but it's a matter of money, I guess. Now, the next thing I got for you, who you got for favorites in each conference at this point in the playoffs? So when Grant and I recorded, the playoffs were just starting, so we picked overall who we like from each conference. But given where we're at in the playoffs, who you got?
Listen, I was adamant about the Lakers not losing, in the West, but now I'm not even super confident that they're not going to lose this series. That blowout was super concerning, especially concerning like that the backcourt scored a grand total of 0 points. Me and you as a backcourt, we scored the same amount of points as $1 million athletes. That's pretty impressive. So good job. Good job last night. You did great in the game. So did I. My plus minus was better than Schroeder's. And I don't make $100 million. Yeah, so sick. I think in the West, though, I don't know, man. I'm mad that this year is like the easiest year in the West because none of these West teams seems like contender until LeBron's in the finals. And I think if LeBron's not in the finals, I think the East will probably sweep or gentlemen sweep the finals, even if it's the Clippers. So, and I think the Clippers will beat the Mavs. But at the same time, if they beat the Mavs, I don't see any team beating them. So I'm going to go full reverse jinx and say that the Clippers are going to get to the finals. And congrats to the Clippers on making the finals. And then, in the East, my pick is I think the Brooklyn Villains will not be beating the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to beat them.
I think you really played that up.
I think that Milwaukee has the defense to neutralize 2 of the 3 guys. And I think that the only guy remaining is KD. And I think they're going to let KD run free. And they're going to kill off Kyrie, and then they're going to kill off Harden. Harden has a penchant of choking in the playoffs anyway. They're going to put Drew Holiday on him or Chris Middleton on him, and then they're going to put the other guy on Kyrie. And I think those guys are going to be struggling. So unless Joe Harris and Blake Griffin go nuclear, I think the Bucks are going to beat. And also, they don't have a defensive answer for Giannis. And Giannis is just going to dunk freely. He's going to be like averaging 38 points a game on 17 dunks, and it's going to be a cakewalk for him to, get his numbers in that series.
Wow. I like that. Bold take. I flat out said I'm going to trust LeBron until I have no reason to not trust him. And you mentioned that Game 5. Worth noting, you number one podcast listeners, you probably have heard this before, but I think it's somewhere over 82% of the time the team that wins Game 5 in a series that's tied 2-2 ends up winning the series. So there's quite a history behind that Game 5 being very crucial. We'll see. I know we're both LeBron fans, and we hope that it's part of that 18% or so, but didn't look impressive in that Game 5, to say the least.
He has come back from a 3-2 in Boston, and that's when he had the scary eyes. So,
yep, yeah, that's true. And I hope this is one of them. Honestly, the Lakers are going to need him. They're not getting help from anywhere else. And that Game 5, in full disclosure, I don't think he did enough either. He didn't have that takeover that we're used to seeing either. So he's got to do some more. The whole team has been having to do some more. But I got to stick with my pick, at least for now. I'm going to change it up if or once they get eliminated. But outside of that, I agree with you. The West is wide open. If the Lakers are out, I don't know who to pick, honestly, because you're looking at teams that have all shown that they've dropped games. No one in the West has been totally scot-free. You're talking about the Clippers. They went down against the Mavs. 2-0, I think.
In convincing fashion, where they thought they were going to get swept.
Yes. And they've come back since, but no one is standing out in the West, put it that way. The Suns do look really good after that Game 5, and they seem like they have the necessary pieces if Chris Paul is healthy. And again, I mentioned this earlier, I better not ever see Cameron Payne go cold again because he's playing absolutely out of his mind. So I expect to see it forever now because it's amazing that this dude is outplaying almost everyone on the Lakers, but never mind. And then in the East, I'm still going with the Villains. I think they'll find a way to score. And Giannis has been known to – there's a reason he hasn't made it super far. So I think if they put the ball in his hands, they'll have a scheme against him. I could see maybe it even being a zone defense and packing it in so that he's forced to shoot from the outside. But I think they'll find a way. I think good offense teams naturally do, and these are three of the best players on the planet. So
yeah, man.
I'm looking forward to the series, but we'll see what happens. I know there's a decent amount of people who believe in the Bucks, and their defense is worthy of it. Chris Middleton's a killer, and Drew Holiday's been fantastic for them. I think that losing DiVincenzo would have been nice for this series because he's another pretty decent defender that they can throw at Harden or Kyrie. Obviously not KD because he's undersized, but that would have been a big potential add for them. And then the one thing I think is like might end up happening is the Bucks have people like Brook Lopez and stuff. You can't do as much if the Nets start to go small ball. Like you're gotta have to be forced to play their style. So I think it's a matter of who's able to get the other to play their style the most. And obviously I'm not saying anything new, but I think that's going to be the key. If the Nets are able to play that small ball and force the Bucks to do the same, they'll win at that game.
And barring the Lakers getting to the finals, I think Bucks and Nets is definitely going to be the series of the playoffs. Like I think that's going to be on paper. It's so good. Like you have to make sure you don't miss. I just hope it's not like lopsided, and I hope no team goes up 3-1. Like I want it to be like 7 games, like 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. You know what I mean? Like I want that shit to go the distance.
And the Sixers, I hope that Embiid is healthy and back enough time. Like I don't think it's an issue for this series or the next, but whoever they would play, like the winner of the Bucks and the Villains, that's going to be crucial. So
for sure.
Otherwise, you're right. Like the East is going to be so boring, and whoever wins this Bucks Villains series is like a cakewalk into the finals, I think.
Yep.
All right. As for what we're feeling, I'll let you go ahead and go first because I got a couple things. I had some milestone things happen to me, so I wanted to get a chance to go over them. What are you feeling lately?
Well, since the last time I was on here, I remember I said, being vaccinated and getting to the Astros games, and I've managed to
go Stros, baby.
Yeah, go Stros, baby. I managed to get to Minute Maid Park twice. I saw a blowout against the Blue Jays. Astros teed off, and I saw our bullpen completely melt down against Tatis and the Padres. I also got to see Tatis completely yak one over the train tracks, so that was pretty cool. He's easily like the coolest dude in baseball right now. And the Padres,
he's swagged out, man.
Yeah, man, the Padres are a lot of fun to watch. I was just like, I hate that this shit's happening to my team, but I'm like, it's so hard not to just sit there and like watch and be like, this guy fucking rules. Like he's so cool.
Yeah. Playoffs is the time when I start hating on people. Like for the regular season, like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, this is fun. And then I guess other than that, just being able to get outside, enjoy the sun, get to the pool. And I watched Bo Burnham's special on Netflix last night. It was fucking awesome. I heard a lot of people talking about it. And it was really cool. He filmed, edited, did everything by himself. It's technically a stand-up special without a crowd, and he filmed it in his house during the pandemic, and he filmed it over the course of so and so days, and like he writes songs and things like that, and it's just like really funny, but also really appropriate for the times we're living in. Social commentary, political commentary, and it's pretty fucking funny. It is a little on the bleak side as far as humor goes, but that's for you to decide. But I enjoyed that.
It's a little bit dark.
It is definitely dark and existential.
All right. I heard good things about it.
Yeah, man. It's definitely worth it.
So as for what I'm feeling, I just turned 30 recently.
Yes, sir.
Talk about overwhelming. It was a good overwhelming. All the love I got. My wife planned an amazing birthday and had people reaching out to me, and she put out all the stops, and the people I love most I heard from, and it was a beautiful day. It was cool to be shown that much love. You don't get that very often, and I know with my Too Much Sense, I always preach showing people love, so it's overwhelming when you receive it. It's a good overwhelming. So definitely feeling that, and major shout out to my wife for planning an amazing birthday for me and all the people that reached out.
Yeah, we even got to take a shot over FaceTime, man.
I know, we did. That was awesome.
Pretty
we
sweet.
Got a It was sweet. I literally feel like I talked to, all the people that I love most, or they were here in the flesh, all that stuff. So it was a fantastic birthday, one of my favorite ever. And also, I got to shout out a specific number one podcast listener, Zach Watson. You can follow the man at that Zach Watson, ZACH. I had to shout the man out. He just got married, and unprompted at his reception, whipped out the creme brulee hat on the dance floor.
That's king shit, man.
Go follow that man. Shout out to Zach. Congrats on your beautiful wedding, your beautiful bride. I didn't see that coming. It was such a cool move. Great guy, obviously, #1 podcast listener. And I had to say I was feeling that because I didn't expect to see that, not in a million years. And it was pretty sweet to have happen. So, yeah. But now let's hit that too much sense and wrap up this episode, man. What you think?
Let's get it.
All right. My too much sense this week is all about invitations. I had this realization that it's one of the best feelings to either give or receive an invitation. And the way I think about it is like someone is literally telling or showing you that of all the people they know, or instead of being alone, which is totally fine. Obviously, everybody needs that. They want to see you. Like, it's so dope to me. It sounds extra, but an invite is telling someone that of all the ways that they or you could spend your time, they want to spend it with you. And I love to think about things like that because it makes an invite mean that much more. Even if it's something casual, it's like, oh no, I'd rather be with you than just be by myself or with any number of people, any infinite possibility of people. I want you to be part of that equation. So that's my too much sense for this week.
Nice, man. Never really thought about invitations being that deep, but props to you for putting that little spin on it.
I think like it doesn't have to be that deep, but like I try to think about that when I'm like, oh man, someone invited me somewhere, and I know they're not even thinking about it that way, but I think it's cool to show that appreciation for like, oh, that's cool. You didn't have to have me here. Like I didn't feel like I needed to or anything like that, but you wanted me there, so that's a cool thing.
Yeah, man. And on that note, thanks for inviting me to be a guest on, the #1 podcast in your fucking headphones, baby.
Amen, man. Love having you on here, big bro. You #1 podcast listeners know the drill. Like, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. And if there's one thing you remember, it's that, the invite thing, and also LNH, baby. Say it with me. LNH.
LNH. Hashtag LeBron needs help. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, LNH, LeBron needs help. Don't you forget it.